'Twas the night before Christmas, and all through the house not a creature was stirring, not even a mouse. But up in the attic an evil did lurk, a board game that turns family members to jerks. Forgotten and dusty it waits there all year, when everyone's hearts are filled with good cheer, to fuel blazing arguments, trouble and strife, where brother hates brother and husband hates wife, making money, buying property, and being mean. A Scroogier game there has never been. The board will be flipped as someone storms stroppily from the miserly game that's known as Monopoly.
Hi, and welcome to Down from the Attic. I'm Luke, and we're going to be looking at Monopoly. This is a sort of game that gets put up here and forgotten about until round Christmas time someone suggests that we bring it down and play it. And with my family, this is a really bad idea.
Monopoly is undoubtedly one of the best-selling games in the world. First introduced in 1933, it has sold over 250 million copies, and 3 of those are under this roof. The idea for this show came from sorting through the attic. It was an absolute mess up here, and it needed organising. Whilst going through things, I came across 3 copies of Monopoly. My dad's version from the 1970s, my old copy from the 90s, and this copy we bought last Christmas for £10 purely because we forgot that we had the other 2 copies.
That's the thing with Monopoly, it so seldom gets played, you forget you own it. So, first things first, I'm going to take these 3 down and see if the board, the game pieces and the rules have changed, if at all, over the course of 50 years.
Naturally, the box art has been updated over the years, as to be expected. My favourite of the 3? The vintage one, hands down. It has a touch of class to it that the others seem to lack. The modern one reminds me of an early 90s educational video game. On to the contents. Well, the boards are near enough identical. The modern version folds out again to make its space smaller, but the street names, positioning, even the graphics are completely unchanged. I love how after nearly 85 years, the stations still have steam engines, the free parking is an old car, and the policeman looks like an old policeman. The player pieces, well, again, largely unchanged. The classics are all here, the car, the battleship, the corgi. The modern additions include a new piece, however, the cat. None of these have any advantage or disadvantage, they're all purely cosmetic. What an odd assortment of objects to use for game pieces. If you're driving around streets and buying houses and hotels, why not everyone have cars? Why is there an iron, an old boot and a top hat? It should be noted that vintage copies of this game had wooden pieces for the houses and hotels, whereas modern versions use plastic. As for the rules of Monopoly, well, these have remained largely unchanged too, showing that this is an enduring game nonetheless. Speaking of rules, this game is notorious for house rules, usually implemented to advantage or disadvantage a player. For example, whenever we played, we'd make a full circuit of the board before being allowed to buy anything, an utterly pointless rule that I'm sure was put in place to stop someone buying property another player wanted. Another rule commonly put in place is that you can only buy property by landing on it. We played it this way for years, going round the board, hoping to land on that one square to complete a set, and missing it every time. That was the absolute opposite of fun.
Monopoly is plagued with house rules. Everyone seems to have their own idea of how this game should be played. Expect at least one. Well, that's not the way I play it. Of course, the way of combating this is to use the printed rules. You know, the ones that come with every copy of Monopoly. The ones that no one seems to pay any bit of attention to.
So, here it is. This is the proper way to play Monopoly. You pick a random bit of junk, I'll be the battleship, you get your money and you start at go. You roll 2 dice and you move your counter in a clockwise direction. Where you land, you're able to buy that property for the list price. Here's a rule that practically no one pays any heed to. If you don't want to buy it, it then goes to auction. That's right, you don't need to land on a square to buy it. In fact, using this method, you can get squares for most instances cheaper than list price. Of course, some arsehole will see that you need said square to complete a set, and will either keep bidding on it to run up the price to some astronomical level, or to the point you go,
fine, take the damn thing.
You can begin to see how the arguments start in this game, but that's just the beginning. Playing this way, property gets snapped up a lot quicker, and the game begins properly at a much faster rate. Naturally, opponents will snap up what they can for the cheapest prices, and will buy property to spite you. You need King's Cross Station to complete the set? Tough luck, someone else bought it. So, what do? You want to buy hotels and houses and, well, monopolise on things. Well, you can trade. You can opt to swap properties, buy properties from the other players, and you set the price. This, again, can cause serious arguments. Oh, you want Mayfair, do you? Yeah, no problem at all. £3,000. Or I want those 3 stations you've got. With wily players, you can see how this game can get really heated really quickly, and you'll soon learn just how vindictive and sly your family members and loved ones can be. Once you have a full set of properties, you can then begin to build houses and hotels on them, and this is where it starts to become seriously expensive. It's an investment, and acts as a give me your money now space to every other player. Naturally, owning as much property as possible gives you the most opportunities to earn money off your fellow players, so getting as many as you can at the start is advantageous. However, being selective on the ones you buy is crucial. Old Kent Road is the cheapest, but it will give you the least amount of revenue when someone lands on it, whereas Mayfair is the most expensive, will cost the most to put hotels on there, but will earn you the most revenue should players land on it. Pros will try to get all the stations as they appear on every side of the board. Pros will also try to get the orange coloured streets, as these have been proven to be statistically the ones which most players land on. By the way, this is a UK version of the game with London-based streets. These vary from country to country and state to state. Landing on another player's property means you owe them money and vice versa. If you're lucky, you'll find your cash growing. Unlucky, it'll dwindle into a few measly notes, and this will definitely get your goat up. Losing in this game sucks, and it's a bitter affair. You'll end up selling hotels, properties, stations just to keep going, and you know that you're just prolonging the inevitable. With every sell, you're giving your opponents more ammunition to nuke your cash, and knowing my family and friends, they won't do this with good grace. They'll smugly rub this fact in your face, waving wads of £500, and your resentment and temper will rise. Of course, I can't not mention Community Chest and Chance. These squares will require you to draw a card, and they'll either help or hinder you. Winning in a beauty pageant? You win money. And of course, the dreaded go to jail, go directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect £200. It's so seldom you land on one of these and you're praying for a good card. Landing on one of these is like 50-50 luck. You want to land on it rather than an opponent's square and give them the money, but you don't want to lose any more money with a bad card. That's the thing with Monopoly, it builds mistrust for all your opponents. You would sooner take this option than give them a single penny of your earnings. The biggest problem with Monopoly is, whilst it would like you to believe that there's skill to how you play, it boils down to being predominantly about luck. Luck if you land on a good property and can afford it, luck if your opponent's landing in your hotels, luck if you land on theirs, it's all luck. Naturally, during the course of a game, someone will eye suspiciously playing the banker and question if they're giving themselves money or counting money out correctly. This game really is a tinderbox for arguments. The game ends when everyone else is broke to the point they've sold every asset and their money has dried up. It's a last man standing affair, and being out and watching others play on it is miserable. Most games of Monopoly I've played, we've all looked at what we've got left after it's painfully obvious who's winning and said, "Okay, you win. You win the sodding game. You win. And this just be over now." This game is a slow torture, and there's been times where the game has ended with the board being flipped. I've mentioned countlessly how this game is notorious for starting arguments with my family and friends, and it would appear that I'm not alone in this. Last year, Hasbro set up a helpline dedicated for arguments that arose playing Monopoly. No, seriously, I'm not joking, this happened. People that angry and vexed that we were losing at Monopoly could call and talk to someone who would tell them it was just a game and that the money was effectively worthless, and to calm them down. This game can really get under your skin. It bears mentioning that there's been a slew of versions of Monopoly. Name a popular movie or TV franchise and it's probably been monopolised. Back to the Future, Ghostbusters, Firefly, Adventure Time, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, Star Trek, Simpsons, South Park. There's seemingly no end to the versions of this game, each with their own new play pieces and themed boards.
Which version? We've got Star Wars Monopoly, Rasta Monopoly, Gallipolopoly, Edna Krabopoly.
The game is essentially the same. You're only kidding yourself that it's different because it's something that you enjoy. I've avoided all of these for the fear that playing a Monopoly version of these will make me hate that movie or TV show.
It goes without saying that I hate Monopoly. I mean, I really hate Monopoly. It's cruel, it's vindictive, it brings out the absolute worst in people, and when the aim of the game is to wring every last penny out of your opponents, this is the absolute worst game you could be playing at Christmas. It is the Gremlins of games. There's so many better board games you could be playing at Christmas. Games where you and your family and your friends can have fun. Actual, real fun. So,
On Flicks, on Grape Escape, on Kerplunk and Downfall, on Crossbows and Catapults, and Curse of the Idol. Play games full of joy that are filled with good heart. Games that bring us together, not tear us apart. With your loved ones around, play games that are fun, filled with laughs and good times for everyone. Bring them down from the attic and have fun, not a fight. And Merry Christmas to all, and to all, a good night.
these are going back up there. There's no way I'm playing Monopoly this Christmas. To all watching, thanks again for watching. Have a fantastic Christmas, and I'll talk to you again soon.